Let's bring him in, our good friend, my good friend, Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe Congini, Akron Children's Hospital Sports Medicine Center. Joe, what do you have for us this morning, my friend?
Hey, Ray, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well,
Good. Yeah, I have two points from this week in sports medicine. The first one is a little bit confusing to a lot of people. Is kind of a discussion of recurrent injuries in sports. What happens with recurrent injuries when people have been injured to the same joint over and over again? We've seen it in Cleveland sports in the last few weeks. You see, say, for instance, ankle injury. You see Jadeveon Clowney going off, or Josh Naylor, he had surgery even on his, and recurrent injuries, or Myles Garrett goes out with a shoulder injury that he's had. And so these recurrent injuries, we don't know the details in every case like that, but a lot of times it's not a one-time, first-time injury. And so people are like, gosh, that's an ankle sprain. This person should be back in week 2 or 3. I have them on my fantasy team. Why isn't this person back or something? And a lot of times it's because they have injuries that have been going on for a while, recurrent injuries. Typically a sprain-type injury is how these things develop. And so what happens, and a term that people use in sports medicine that's a little confusing to people, is what's called functional instability. And instability means that when you're trying to do activities, the joint may be loose. It's not as strong as it should be. That's kind of a catchword for instability. That's one of the real common issues when people have had recurrent injuries. So somebody goes to lift weights and the shoulder is just loose and they just can't lift the weights, or goes to serve a tennis ball and their shoulder is unstable and it clunks and it gives way and they just can't play tennis or something. They go to make a cut and their ankle gives way, or their knee gives way. And so these are kind of injuries that are from cumulative effect. And so for a lot of these people, you and I have talked about this for years, if you get a lot of these cumulative effect injuries, they really start to feed on each other, and you have great people that had great potential like Bradley Zimmer and Grady Sizemore and others, and they just don't reach that potential. And so the unstable joint, you may try at that point to rehab them for a few weeks or tape them, but when it's the 5th time that my ankle's given way or the 10th time my shoulder's given out, I'm a lot less optimistic. And we try with taping and bracing and harnesses and physical therapy and rehab, but if it gets to the point that it's just not holding up to the rigors of the sport they want to play, then we have to look over to our surgical friends for help. So that's functional instability. The other thing that occurs when people are injured recurrently is the bones rub against each other. We end up with an arthritic situation, and it's almost exactly the opposite. This is the second. These two are the most common issues with recurrent injuries. These people are stiff and painful, and they get osteoarthritis in the joint. And again, if rehab is not helping them anymore, sometimes with people with bad osteoarthritis, they need surgery. And so those are a couple of the real common issues. And the take-home point for our younger athletes is when you have an injury, you may try to play through a season or whatever, but make sure that at least when that season's over that you get in, you get the injury taken care of on the front end, and you get that injury tightened up and stronger and flexible and get all your strength back. Because if you don't, later on you're going to pay the price with problems like an unstable joint or an arthritic joint. And that's what we don't want to see. So one more thing I just wanted to make a point, Ray, on. In left field last night at Yankee Stadium, I was watching the game with some friends. Of course, a heartbreaker for Cleveland sport fans like me, lifelong fans. But then again, we have to remember what a weekend we had. What a series against Tampa Bay. But Saturday night may go down as one of the top 10 all-time Cleveland sports moments. Coming back, 2 outs, 2 strikes. 176-0 the Yankees are in that situation, and the Indians win that game Saturday night. It was a great moment. But last night there was a play in left field. The outfielder went down, and the trainer came out to check him, and the kid couldn't seem to get up and walk on the joint. And the trainer straightened his leg out and bumped his heel pretty hard. He stole a page from my playbook. That's what I do in my office. I love the bump test. And so when I'm looking for stress fractures and things, I'll be teaching this technique this weekend at a nurse practitioner conference in Columbus. The bump test is really helpful to see if they have a fracture or something more going on, and you see that player ended up having to come out of the game. And so just kind of a funny moment there of even with cleats on, they did a bump test on the field on that kid to try to determine whether he was going to be able to get back into play. And it's one more test in our bag of tricks that we can do to try to sort out who should be playing and who not. But think about those recurrent injuries. Make sure that you take care of these injuries up front so they don't go on to a loose or unstable joint or arthritis later on.
All right, Joe. Great information, and you're right. Terrific run by our Guardians. They made it fun, and I actually can't wait already for next March when we start to see this young team grow a little bit more with experience, more youth coming on, and I think it should be exciting for 2023 for sure, but a great run by this team. Joe, thanks for the time, my friend.
Thanks, Ray. Have a great week.
You too. Dr. Joe Congini, Akron Children's Hospital Sports Medicine Center with us. Joins us each Wednesday at this time.